They had watched Earth for years. From their hidden stations beyond the moons of Saturn, the Council of Vayari collected every piece of data they could find. Videos, broadcasts, history files, everything humans ever did was studied. And what they saw terrified them. The files were full of blood, endless wars, explosions that turned cities into ash, soldiers with faces hard as stone walking through fire like it meant nothing. One Vayari scientist whispered, "They fight like beasts. They burn their own world." Another added, "They do not fear death. That makes them dangerous." The Vayari had seen many worlds. Some were peaceful, some were wild, but none were like Earth. Humanity didn't just fight to survive. They fought like it was part of who they were. And so the Council gave Earth a name. Not humans, not Earthlings. They called them monsters. And yet, something didn't match. In one video, a human soldier was seen holding the hand of a dying enemy. The alien wore different armor, spoke a different language, but the human didn't care. He stayed there, whispering something until the alien took his last breath. Then the human cried. That video was marked as an error, but it wasn't the only one. More and more files showed strange things. Human medics helping enemy fighters, troops risking their lives to protect alien children, generals giving food to prisoners. One even ordered his army to stop a battle so wounded enemies could be rescued from a burning ship. The Council grew confused. Monsters didn't act like this. Monsters didn't cry for their enemies. So they sent a small team to Earth, just 4 observers. Their ship was cloaked, invisible, to all. Their mission, to see the truth for themselves. They landed on a hill near a human military zone, somewhere cold, quiet, and filled with silence after a recent battle. The observers wore camo suits blending with the rocks. Below, they saw the battlefield. Smoke still rose from the ground. Metal scraps lay scattered. Bodies, both human and alien, were being collected by machines. Then they saw him. A lone human soldier. His armor was scratched and dirty. His helmet hung at his side. He walked slowly across the field, stepping over debris. In his arms, he carried something. No. Someone. An alien. The species was known to the Vayari. A Karik. Warrior, strong, violent, trained from birth to kill. They had fought against humans before. Brutal enemies. No mercy. No peace. But this human carried the Karik like a fallen brother. Gently. With care. He reached a quiet spot near a small tree and knelt down. The human laid the body on the ground. Then he opened a small box, took out a tool, and began to dig. The Vayari watched, confused. The human dug for nearly 20 minutes. Then, when the grave was ready, he lowered the Karik warrior into it. He placed a metal tag beside the body, folded its arms, and covered it with soil. When he finished, he stood for a moment, silent. Then he spoke. The Vayari's translator recorded the words. "You fought with honor," the human said. "I wish it didn't have to end like this. I'm sorry." And then he cried. Real tears. He wiped them away, but more came. His shoulders shook. He wasn't angry. He wasn't proud. He was just broken. The lead observer, a Vayari named Solon, felt cold run through his veins. "This is not a monster," Solon whispered. "This is something else." Another observer, younger, whispered, "I don't understand. Why would he cry for an enemy?" Solon didn't answer. He didn't know. The team returned to their ship in silence. The recording was played over and over again. They checked for tricks. Was it staged? Was it a trap? But no. The emotions were real. The act was honest. Back on the council world, the footage was shown to the leaders. Some were stunned, others angry. One shouted, "It's fake, a lie, they are trying to fool us." But others were not so sure. "What if we were wrong?" one asked. "What if we only saw the war but never the soul?" The debate exploded. Files were reviewed again, this time with open eyes. They saw the violence, but also the mercy. They saw rage, but also compassion. The picture changed. Maybe humans were not monsters. Maybe they were something far more dangerous, because a monster fights without feeling, but a human might love you, a human might save you, but if you make them cry, if you make them grieve, they will never forget. And in that truth, the galaxy felt something new. Fear. Not of the monster they imagined, but of the human they had never truly seen. They watched the footage again and again. The human soldier kneeling, burying the Carrick enemy, tears falling on the fresh soil. It made no sense. Carrick warriors were known for being cruel, merciless. The Carrick had invaded Earth once. They destroyed towns, killed civilians, left nothing standing. And yet the human had cried for one of them. The Council of Vayari held an emergency meeting. Some called it a trick, some demanded war, but others were silent, watching, thinking. Solon, the observer who had witnessed it all, stood in the middle of the chamber. "I saw it with my own eyes," he said. "He held the enemy like a brother. He buried him with respect. And he cried." One of the elders, old and bitter, spat, "It is weakness. Let them cry. It only proves they are soft." But Solon didn't agree. No, it was not weakness, it was strength, the kind we don't understand. The council ordered Solon and his team to stay on Earth. "Watch more," they said. "Find the truth." And so they did. The observers followed the same human soldier. His name was Captain Elias Grant, a man who had fought in 5 wars. His record was long, many medals, many missions, and many, many kills. But what they saw surprised them. Elias led his team into dangerous zones. They didn't just fight, they helped. In one village, they found enemy survivors, wounded, hungry, scared. Instead of shooting, Elias ordered food drops and medical kits. "They're not soldiers anymore," he said. "They're just people now." The Vayari watched from their invisible ship above the clouds. Every act confused them more. Then came the day of the blast. A hidden mine exploded during a patrol. Screams filled the air. Fire spread across the field. When the dust cleared, half of Elias's team was down. But there was another surprise. An enemy scout caught in the same explosion was crawling, bleeding badly. A Carrick, just like the one buried days ago, still alive, barely. Elias saw him and ran straight to him. The humans shouted, "Sir, it's a trap, let him die!" But Elias didn't listen. He grabbed the Carrick and carried him back through fire, his armor melting, flames licking at his skin. He laid the alien down gently, called for the medic, and stayed by his side until he passed out. The Vayari saw everything. They recorded every second. And this time there was no debate. This wasn't fake. This wasn't weakness. It was something else. Something powerful. After the blast, the Carrick soldier survived. He woke up days later in a human medical tent. The Vayari couldn't believe it. The Carrick was a known killer, responsible for the deaths of dozens, and yet here he was, bandaged, breathing, alive, thanks to the very people he came to kill. One night, when the guards stepped out, Elias walked into the tent. The Carrick sat up, confused. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you save me?" Elias didn't speak at first. Then he sat beside the bed and looked the alien in the eyes. "I've seen too much death," he said softly, "but I've also seen what happens when we choose something else. You should have let me die." Elias shook his head. "You're not my enemy anymore. You're just a soldier, like me." The Carrick said nothing, but something in his eyes changed. The Vayari recorded this too. When they played it for the council, no one spoke for a long time. Then the youngest member of the council said something no one expected. "I don't think we understand humans at all," she said. The elders looked at each other, uneasy. "If these monsters," she continued, "can feel grief for those who attacked them, then maybe They are not monsters. Solon nodded. They cry for the enemy. That is not something to laugh at. That is something to fear. A senior counselor leaned forward. Fear? Why fear kindness? Because, Solon said, if they show that kind of respect to the ones who tried to kill them, what do you think they do for the ones they love? No one answered, because deep down, they already knew. A species that cries for its enemies is not soft. It is strong in a way the galaxy has never seen. And if they ever turn that strength fully toward war, the universe would burn in a fire fueled not by rage, but by sorrow. The Karik soldier's name was Vorak. He had spent most of his life training to fight humans. He had learned that humans were cold, brutal, and full of hate. His commanders had told him stories of burned cities, of humans laughing while they crushed alien armies. Vorak believed them. He believed humans were monsters in human skin until one of them saved his life. Now he lay in a bed surrounded by those monsters. The humans fed him, treated his wounds, even gave him clean clothes. He expected torture. Instead, they gave him peace. Vorak didn't understand. Elias Grant visited him every day. He brought him books, talked to him, told him stories, not war. Stories, but stories about Earth, about families, about music, about sunsets over the ocean. Vorak listened in silence. He didn't trust Elias, but he started to doubt everything he once believed. One evening, a human child arrived at the camp, a refugee. Her parents had died when the Karik attacked. She barely spoke. She clutched a broken toy in her hand and kept to herself. When she saw Vorak, she froze. Terror filled her eyes. She began to cry. Vorak felt something strange in his chest. Guilt. He turned away. That night, he couldn't sleep. He remembered what Elias had said earlier that day. You don't have to be what they made you. The next morning, Vorak asked for something strange. He wanted to help. At first, the humans laughed, but Elias just looked at him and nodded. Then start by helping clean the med bay, he said. We'll see what happens after that. So he did. The Vayari observers watched everything from their hidden ship. They recorded every action, every word. Solon stared at the screens in disbelief. This is not just kindness, he said. This is transformation. The others nodded, unsure of what they were witnessing. Vorak kept helping. Day by day, he changed. He spoke to the child, gently, slowly. One day, she handed him her broken toy. He took it, fixed it, and gave it back with a small smile. She smiled, back. The humans saw it. Some still didn't trust him. Some never would. But Elias believed in him, and so the others followed his lead. Then came the message. A Karik strike force was heading toward the base. The humans knew the Karik would not ask questions. They would attack everything, including the child, the wounded, and Vorak himself. Elias prepared his team. The Vayari watched in shock as Vorak stepped forward and said, Let me speak to them. Elias frowned. They'll kill you. Maybe, Vorak said. But if I don't try, everyone here will die. The humans argued. Some shouted. But Elias looked him in the eyes and saw something no one expected. Honor. Elias gave him a communicator. You've got one chance, he said. Make it count. Vorak walked into the open field. The sky above was gray. The air was tense. Drones buzzed quietly as he stepped past the defense line. The Karik ships landed hard, kicking up dust. Dozens of warriors spilled out, weapons raised. Vorak held his hands up. Wait, he called. Please, listen. The Karik commander stepped forward. He growled, You are a traitor. Vorak didn't argue. Maybe, but I've seen something you haven't. These humans, they are not monsters. They burned. Our worlds, the commander shouted. Yes, Vorak said, and we burned theirs. We have all done terrible things, but I saw one cry for me. I saw one save my life. The commander didn't speak. Vorak pointed toward the base. There are children inside, wounded, unarmed. If you attack, you will not be warriors, you will be butchers. The silence was heavy. Back in the Vayari ship, Solon held his breath. Then something happened. No one expected. The Karik commander lowered his weapon. He turned and gave a signal. The strike force stepped back. The ships rose into the sky and vanished into the clouds. Vorak stood alone. He walked back slowly. Elias met him at the gate. What did you say to them? He asked. I told the truth, Vorak said, for the first time in my life. The Vayari observers sent the full footage to the council. This time, there was no debate. They had seen war. Now, they had seen something stronger. Forgiveness. The galaxy had always feared humans because of their power, but now they feared them for a new reason. Because humans didn't just destroy, they could heal, even their enemies, and that made them more dangerous than anyone had ever imagined. The council chamber was silent. For the first time in decades, every voice had gone quiet. The footage of the Karik retreat, the image of Vorak walking back to the humans unhurt, played on the wide hollow screen in front of them. Solon turned off the video. They didn't fire a single shot, he said, because of one human, because of one enemy who changed. The older counselors still looked uneasy. They are clever, said one. They use peace as a weapon, but the younger counselors disagreed. This isn't a trick, said Counselor Riva. This is real. We've never seen this in any species. Solon looked around the room. We've feared humans because they are strong. We feared their rage, their machines, their fire, but that is not their greatest weapon. Then what is? Someone asked. Their heart, Solon said. That's what we don't understand. Back on Earth, Elias and his team returned to the main base. Vorak stayed with them, no longer a prisoner, but not yet fully trusted. Some soldiers still gave him cold looks. Others whispered behind his back, but none dared hurt him, not after what he had done. The human child, Lila, now followed him everywhere. She carried her fixed toy, always holding his hand. Vorak never said it aloud, but her smile gave him peace. One day, Elias called Vorak to the command tent. We received a message, Elias said, from the Karik homeworld. Vorak stiffened. What kind of message? They want to speak with you. Vorak's eyes widened. Me? They saw the footage. They saw what you did, Elias explained. They're sending a ship. Vorak stepped outside, heart racing. He thought about his past, about all the death, the hatred, the blood. And now, his own people wanted to talk. To him. It didn't feel real. The Vayari ship, still cloaked above the clouds, recorded it all. When the Karik ship arrived, it was smaller than usual. No weapons, just a diplomat and 2 guards. Vorak walked up to them, not as a soldier, but as something else. You pew. Called for me? He asked. The Karik diplomat, older and slower than most, stared at him with tired eyes. We saw the footage, he said. You saved a human child. You saved their wounded. You faced your own commander. Vorak said nothing. The diplomat leaned. Closer. Why? Vorak looked back at the human base, at the child waving from the gate, at Elias watching from a distance, and he spoke. I was raised to hate them, Vorak said. But when I was dying, one of them saved me. Not because he had to, because he chose to. I didn't understand it. I still don't fully. But now I don't want to fight anymore. I want to build something better. The guards tensed, but the diplomat raised a hand. You're not the first to feel this. Others in the fleet have begun to ask the same questions. You gave them hope. Vorak was shocked. Others? Like me? Yes, the diplomat said. You opened a door. Now we must decide if we walk through it. The meeting ended. The Karik ship left, but the galaxy had already started changing. Word spread. Other races, who once feared humans as monsters, began to question the stories. Footage of Elias crying over the fallen enemy played across thousands of hidden networks. The image of Vorak carrying a human child became a symbol of change. The Vayari Council watched it all, and now they were the ones afraid, not of human weapons, but of human ideas, because ideas could not be destroyed. They could only grow. Solon wrote his final report. "The humans are not monsters," he said. "They are something far more dangerous. They are mirrors. They reflect what others show them. Show them hate, and they will return fire. Show them pain, and they will answer with fury. But show them kindness, and they will give back something stronger." He paused before writing the last line. "And when even their enemies become friends, the galaxy will never be the same." Meanwhile, in the human base, Elias stood beside Vorak, watching the sunset. "It's strange," Elias said. "We've been fighting for so long, I forgot what peace looked like." Vorak nodded slowly. "I never knew." And in that quiet moment, with no weapons drawn and no battles being fought, a new kind of war was won, a war of hearts, a war that no one expected, and humanity was winning. Vorak sat by the small garden just outside the human camp. The child, Lila, was beside him, drawing pictures in the dirt with a stick. She had drawn a smiling sun, a spaceship, and a Carrick soldier holding hands with a human. Vorak looked at it and felt something heavy in his chest. He had never seen peace drawn like this. Elias walked over with 2 cups of hot liquid. He handed one to Vorak and sat beside him. "You okay?" Elias asked. Vorak nodded. "Just thinking." "About what?" "My people," Vorak said. "They watched me, but most of them still don't understand. Some still think I betrayed them." Elias looked at the drawing in the dirt. "Change is slow, but it started." Just then, a message came through. On the camp's communication system, the screen lit up. A voice spoke, cold and full of warning. "This is High Commander Trell of the Carrick military. The traitor known as Vorak must be returned to us. He is charged with dishonor, betrayal, and spreading weakness among our ranks. You have 24 hours. Everyone froze. Vorak stood still, not moving, not speaking. Elias's hands clenched into fists. "No!" He walked to the comm unit and responded, "He stays with us." There was a long pause before the Carrick commander spoke again. Then "prepare for war." The screen went dark. Everyone in the camp began preparing. Weapons were checked, shields activated, soldiers lined up. They had faced attacks before, but this one was personal. They weren't just defending Earth anymore. They were protecting a former enemy who had become family. Vorak watched the chaos quietly. Then he walked to the edge of the camp and stared at the sky. The sun was going down. Clouds glowed red. He remembered standing on burning battlefields under that same sky, but now it looked different. He turned when he heard footsteps behind him. It was Elias. "You thinking of running?" he asked. "No," Vorak said. "I'm thinking of going to them." Elias shook his head. "They'll kill you." "Maybe," Vorak said, "but maybe they need to hear the truth. Not through a screen. From me. In person. You'll die." "Maybe not," Vorak said. "Not if you help me send a message first." An hour later, a new message went out. Not from the Carrick, not from Earth's leaders, but from Elias and Vorak. It was simple. A recording. Elias and Vorak stood side by side. Elias spoke first. "You fear us. That's fine. But know this. Fear is not the same as truth." Then Vorak stepped forward. "I was once like you. I was raised to hate. I believed humans were monsters, but they didn't kill me. They didn't torture me. They saved me. And they showed me something stronger than war." He paused and looked directly into the camera. "They cried for me when I was wounded. A child who lost everything held my hand. These are not monsters. They are more than that. And if you destroy them, you will destroy what little honor we have left." The recording ended. The message spread fast, across both Carrick and neutral space. Millions watched it. Some called Vorak a liar, some called him a hero, and some began to wonder if everything they had been told was wrong. But Trell, the Karek commander, didn't care. He sent a war fleet anyway. The sky above the human camp turned dark with shadows. Huge ships hovered. Fighters zoomed past the clouds. The humans prepared to fight, but they were badly outnumbered. Inside the command center, Elias stood ready. "I told you this would happen," he said to Vorak. "I know," Vorak replied. He stepped forward and activated the base's signal booster. Then, he did something no one expected. He broadcast a single word across all Karek ships. "Look." Then he sent a live feed from inside the base. It showed the human child, Lila, standing beside him. She wasn't crying. She wasn't scared. She was smiling. She held Vorak's hand, and she waved. Every Karek screen showed it. The fleet paused. Inside their ships, Karek warriors watched a human child, trust a Karek soldier, not out of fear, but out of love. Then something unbelievable happened. One by one, the Karek ships began to pull back. No orders, no battles. They just left, all except one. Commander. Trell's ship stayed. He sent a message. "You've poisoned their minds." Vorak replied, "No, I've opened their eyes." Trell launched a missile, but before it hit, a Karek cruiser shot it down. Silence followed, and then, for the first time ever, a Karek ship fired on its own commander. Trell's ship was destroyed. Peace came, not from a treaty, but from choice, from change. The battlefield was silent. The skies had cleared. The Karek fleet was gone, and Earth's camp was still standing, but no one felt like cheering. Vorak sat in the quiet medical tent. His arm was wrapped in bandages from the shockwave of the last explosion. Lila sat beside him, drawing again. This time she drew a broken sword being mended with flowers. Elias entered with a grim face. "You should rest," he said. Vorak looked up. "I can't. Not yet." "Why?" "Because this isn't the end. It's only the beginning." News of the Karek fleet turning back spread fast across the galaxy. For some species, it was a sign of weakness. For others, it was a miracle. But in the heart of Karek space, things were falling apart. Many soldiers refused orders. Officers who once followed blindly now questioned everything. Statues of Trell were pulled down in anger. But not all were ready for peace. A powerful warlord named Rexon took control of the outer fleets. He didn't believe in change. He believed in power, and he wanted revenge. "This is what happens," Rexon said in a broadcast, "when you let your enemies poison your heart. We are warriors. We do not kneel. We do not cry for those who would destroy us." He declared war, again, not just on humans, but on all Karek who had shown mercy. Elias watched the message and frowned. "He's going to undo everything." Vorak's jaw tightened. "He'll try." Lila looked up from her drawing. "Will we have to fight again?" Elias hesitated, then said, "Maybe." Vorak spoke quietly. "But this time, we won't fight alone." Across the stars, something strange began to happen. Races that had once feared humans started reaching out. Small planets sent support ships. Neutral zones offered supplies. Even some Karek families contacted the human base asking for help. A movement was rising, not one of armies, but of memory. People remembered the moment they saw a human cry for a fallen enemy. They remembered the hand of a child holding a Karex, and they began to believe that monsters could change. But Rexon was moving fast. He launched attacks on Karek cities that had refused him. He sent drones to hunt former commanders. He even tried to bomb the planet that had broadcast Vorak's message. Elias called an emergency council. Representatives from human colonies, alien worlds, and rebel Karek officers gathered through secure comms. Vorak stood before them. "I know you don't trust me," he said. "Some of you lost family to my people. Some of you think I'm a tool of war. But if we don't stand together now, Rexon will burn everything." One older alien spoke up. You expect us to follow a Carrick? Vorak didn't answer right away. He looked down, then said, No, I expect you to follow the truth. The room was silent. Then Elias stood beside him. He's not asking to lead. He's asking for a chance. Slowly, one by one, the council members agreed, and something new was born. The Peace Guard. It wasn't made of one species. It was made of survivors, rebels, and dreamers, people who had seen too much death and wanted something better. They didn't have the biggest ships. They didn't have the strongest weapons, but they had something no one else had. Hope. The Peace Guard sent out warnings. They helped evacuate planets Rexon targeted. They hacked enemy drones and disabled warships without killing the pilots. They weren't just fighting a war, they were proving a point. That you didn't have to become a monster to win. But Rexon didn't care. He attacked a peaceful Carrick city that had joined the Peace Guard. Over 2,000 civilians were killed. When the news reached the human base, no one spoke. Lila cried. Vorak stood in the center of the command room. His eyes were full of pain, and then Elias did something he hadn't done in a long time. He cried, in front of everyone, tears for the fallen. Not because they were Carrick or human, but because they were lives, and that moment was recorded. Not for war, but for memory. The broadcast went viral. Even on Rexon's warships, some soldiers paused. Some walked away. Some turned their weapons off because monsters don't cry, and if humans, if even former enemies, could feel grief for those they once fought, then maybe, just maybe, the real monsters were the ones who didn't. And from a single moment of trust between a child and the monster she had been told to fear. The war didn't end with an explosion. It ended with silence. Rexon's forces were closing in on a rebel planet. The Peace Guard had no time to prepare. Their defense ships were outnumbered 5-1. Civilians hid underground. Everyone expected a massacre. But when Rexon's fleet arrived, something strange happened. They stopped. Not all of them, just a few at first. Then more. One by one, ships powered down weapons. Officers began to argue on open comms. Some refused orders. Some turned around. Some even sent messages to the Peace Guard. We are done with blood, Rexon roared in anger. He ordered the attack anyway. He didn't know this would be his last command because one of his own captains had made a choice. The ship nearest Rexon's flagship launched a single blast, not at the enemy. At Rexon. The flagship exploded in a bright flash across the sky. It was over. No cheers came, just quiet. Back at the Peace Guard base, Elias stood in front of the screen, watching the light fade. He's gone, someone whispered. No one clapped, no one smiled. Lila reached for Vorak's hand. Does this mean we won't fight anymore? Vorak looked at her. I hope so. Weeks passed. Then months. The galaxy began to rebuild. The Peace Guard grew, not as an army, but as a symbol. Reminder that kindness could exist even in war. That enemies could sit together. That monsters could become something more. Vorak became a speaker, one of the first Carrick to stand in Earth's United Hall. Some protested. Some turned away, but most listened. He didn't wear a uniform. He didn't speak of glory. He told the story of a small girl with a pencil and paper, how she drew flowers after a battle, how she cried for someone who tried to kill her people, and how that moment changed everything. The room was silent when he finished. Then someone stood and clapped, then another and another. Across the galaxy, his words were shared, on war-torn planets, in classrooms, in homes, even on Carrick worlds. One day, Lila's drawing was placed in a museum on the galactic capital. It showed two hands, one human, one Carrick, holding each other. Below it, simple words were written. We cried, because we remembered they were like us. Humanity had been called monsters, and maybe they were. but they were also something more. They were the first to cry for their enemy. They were the first to show that even in fire, a heart could still feel. That's what people remembered. Not the battles, not the ships, but the moment a soldier, born for war, fell to his knees and cried, because in that moment, the galaxy changed, not with power, not with fear, but with something far more dangerous, compassion. And so, the legend grew, of the monsters who wept, of the enemies who became brothers, and of a child from Earth who drew peace with nothing but a pencil and hope. The end.